back to the Mindbender Mental Performance Podcast.
Episode 142, Climbing the Second Mountain, Mental Performance Lessons from the great David Brooks. Today's episode is specially dedicated to Chloe Burns. Happy 16th birthday, and Mello. Welcome back to the Mindbender Mental Performance Pod, the only podcast that former Licey baseball great Enrique Barraneses makes players fuerte en la cabeza. El lugar es aquí, el momento es ahora. Wherever you are, the place is here. The time is now. Taking it from the clouds to the dirt, where these thoughts can grow one episode at a time. Showing up, being present, and knocking down mental and oftentimes emotional barriers that get in the way of consistent and confident performance outcomes. Two mountains, two mentalities. Today, we're diving into some heavy hitters from the great David Brooks, The Second Mountain. This book isn't just about philosophy. It's a playbook for transformation, for grit, and what it really means to level up as an athlete, a coach, or just a damn good human being. The premise is this: we all start on the first mountain, where we're chasing success, we're being ambitious, and proving ourselves. But eventually, life punches you in the gut. A loss, a failure, a death, some soul-crushing adversity. And that's when you realize the first mountain, it ain't enough. The second mountain is about purpose. It's about connection, and it's about committing to something bigger than yourself. It's about relationships. It's about community. It's about how you love, how you make people feel, how you love yourself, how you love others, how you make people feel, and being all in on the stuff that truly matters. If you're climbing the first mountain, you're focused on what you can get. On the second mountain, you're focused on who you become and what you can give. That's where the El Mago happens. That's where the magic happens. I think a couple of lessons to point out from the great book, The Second Mountain. Commitment is the ultimate game changer. Brooks says the second mountain life is all about commitment to a vocation, a family, a philosophy, or a community. The kicker is commitment isn't just about passion or hype. It's about building a structure of behavior for those days when the fire isn't burning as hot, when you don't feel like it. Think about training sessions. Think about coaching. Anyone can show up when it's easy. But what about when you're dead tired, when you're banged up, right? Well, you can't make the club if you're sitting in the tub, or you're just not feeling it. Because the professionals show up anyway. Why? Because they're committed. And when you commit fully, when you're all in or in the way, whether it's to your team, your craft, your family, your business, you'll find a freedom that's deeper than chasing results. In the book, Brooks says, on the second mountain, it's the chains that set you free. You know, an exile of your own mind is where you can find some really profound places of true adventure and honesty, if you have the courage to climb down into the valley and go up the next mountain. We're going to talk about digging the damn ditch and the power of discipline. One of my favorite lines from the books is, sometimes if you're going to be a professional, you just have to dig the damn ditch. Let that sink in. Too many people wait to feel motivated or inspired to do the work. It's the start that stops us. Inspiration doesn't win championships, neither does motivation. They're both fickle. But what does is discipline, self-discipline. And the most important word in self-discipline is self. You don't feel your way to greatness. You act your way there. And the more you embrace that, the more you'll realize that the discipline itself is what separates the good from the elite. Another principle in the book that I, of course, love as a 20-plus year ultra endurance athlete, suffering as a teacher. Brooks doesn't sugarcoat it. Suffering can suck, but it also shapes you in ways success never could. Yes, suffering shapes you in ways success never could. In the book, he writes, suffering smashes through the floor of what you thought was the basement of your soul and reveals the cavity below. Damn. The thing is, suffering doesn't automatically make you better. It's your response to the suffering that counts. You can let it break you or you can let it build you. Think of those moments when you've been in the valley, coming back from an injury, losing a game you probably should have won or could have won, or facing doubt from everybody around you. Those moments of exile, that great, profound moment of exodus, those moments tenderize your heart, man, deepen your perspective and connect you to others in a way nothing else could. Lastly, how about the ego and the soul? Brooks breaks down the difference between your ego self and your soul self. The ego is all about proving, achieving, controlling. It's what drives you up the first mountain. So it has a purpose. But at some point, you realize that the ego is not enough. Your soul self is where the second mountain begins. The ego wants to win the game. The soul wants to play for something bigger. The ego seeks the glory. The soul seeks fulfillment and joy. The ego is about me. The soul is about we. As athletes and coaches, we've all got ego. It's part of the game. But the great ones know when to let the soul lead. They're the ones who lift others up, who play with purpose, and who leave a legacy that is bigger than themselves. I want to address for a minute Second Mountain, the book Second Mountain, Teams and Cultures. Brooks says the second mountain isn't just for individuals. It's for teams. Second Mountain teams have a culture built on commitment, trust, and service. They're not about me. They're about we. They thrive on connection and shared sacrifice and suffering. Like, man, for those of you who have done ultra endurance sports, any of the guys that have ever gone out for a long day out on a mountain, long bike ride, long open water swim, you develop a relationship with those people through that shared suffering and sacrifice that you'll never find in 100 trips to get beer and wings and watch, Sunday night football. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you get the drift. These are where players aren't just competing for themselves, but for each other. It's about celebrating interdependence over independence. It's about teaching your team to value the grind, the relationships, and the growth that comes from adversity. Commitment over comfort. The second mountain life is all about tying yourself to something bigger. Stop looking for shortcuts or easy wins. Commit fully, even when it's hard, even when it's tough. Tough times don't last, tough people do, and watch how it transforms your game and, more importantly, your life. Suffering is really a springboard. You don't choose suffering, but you do choose how you respond to it. Let it deepen your gratitude, strengthen your relationships, and push you toward a higher purpose. Build your soul, not just your stats. The first mountain is about building that resume. The second mountain is about building your eulogy. It's about who you are, not just what you do. I hope I don't have to go to one, but it's an inevitable piece of life that we're all going to experience death. I've never been to a eulogy where they're talking about how much money somebody made or, what's in their bank account, what they drive, where they live. They're talking about how they loved and how they made people feel. It's about who you are, not just what you do. How you loved and how you made people feel about their interactions with you. Keep leading with a purpose out there. Whether you're an athlete, a coach, or a teammate, or somebody in a family, your job is to create a second mountain culture there. A culture where everyone is committed to something bigger than themselves. Identify the big commitments in your life. Are they strong enough to hold you steady when things get tough? If not, build them. Sit down with your team, with your family, and ask, What do we need to start doing to build a better culture here? What do we need to stop doing that's holding us back? What do we need to continue doing that's working? Perform an ego versus soul audit. Think about recent decisions. Are they ego-driven or are they soul-driven? Are you playing for your own glory? Or are you playing for something bigger? Maybe the glory of God. Start climbing your second mountain if you get the call. Figure out what really matters. Your mission, your team, your family, God, and go all in. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Para mis jugadores latinos, más línea, más vida. Hasta el próximo recuerdo. Si quieres ser un jugador disciplinado, comprometido y preparado en el futuro, empiezas esa mierda hoy. Se necesita lo que se necesita y lo mejor está por venir. Until next time, remember, if you want to be a disciplined, committed, and prepared ball player in the future, start today. It takes what it takes. And the best is yet to come.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.